Now, Director of Communications for the NDC, Sammy Jamefi, has described as sexist and misogynistic comments by the Director of Communications for the NPP, Yaw Boabeng Asamoah, and Majority Leader Oseche Mensah-Bonsu, hours after the party announced Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyemang as the running mate of NDC flag bearer John Dramani Mahama. Speaking at a news conference here in Accra, he also refuted claims by the NPP that the former UCC Vice-Chancellor supervised the cancellation of teacher trainee allowances and book and research allowances for teachers.
Would like to set the record straight as follows. Firstly, they claim that Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyemang cancelled teacher trainee allowance is false. The decision to replace the teacher trainee allowance with student loan was a cabinet decision and not a ministerial decision. As you may be aware, the ex-Yaw Mahama government, to ensure equity and equality among tertiary students, converted allowances for teacher trainees into student loans in order to abolish the dreaded quota system of admissions into colleges of education and increase enrollment and teacher opportunities for the youth of this country. As such, students who did not receive allowances got their loans under this policy. This was a decision President Mahama himself took responsibility for. This policy, ladies and gentlemen, which was not properly understood by many, was exploited by then candidate Akufo-Addo and the NPP for cheap political capital and electoral gain, with a promise that they will restore the allowances if elected. The sad reality today is that instead of the full restoration of the allowances as was promised by President Akufo-Addo and the NPP, teacher trainees are being served with a partial restoration of the allowances, which is being paid in a rather very erratic manner and for only 8 months instead of 12 months, as was the case before the conversion. In fact, our checks this morning show that the Akufo-Addo government hasn't paid any allowances to teacher trainees since February 2020. And so the allowances they claim to have restored is currently in arrears for over 4 months. To add insult to injury, the Akufo-Addo government has increased the school fees of teacher trainees and introduced feeding fees, which used to be free under the Mahama government. Worst of it all is the abolishment of the automatic employment of teachers and the introduction of a needless licensure exams and an obnoxious mandatory national service policy for teacher trainee graduates by the Akufo-Addo government. Currently, over 2,000 newly qualified trained teachers who have passed their licensure exams and undergone the 1-year mandatory national service are still home without employment.
We stay with the NDC, and Director of Elections Elvis Ifeanyi describes as total chaos various registration centers scenes, and he says there's a complete disregard for COVID-19 protocols. He says it is mind-boggling how the EC chairperson and the president are exposing Ghanaians to danger.
Officers at some polling stations have rather caused the arrest of prospective registrants for bringing the completed forms to register. Again, as a measure to ensure transparency throughout the registration process, registration officials are required to issue a printout from the registration equipment at the beginning and the end of each day and give copies to party agents present. Unfortunately, this is not being done at some polling stations. Some of the officers claim that they had not been informed about the procedure, and this raises questions about the quality of training given to the officials. So, for example, all these issues about numbers jumping, one of the ways to check is to look at the start of day numbers for a particular day and close of day. So if we get a start of day numbers for today, and we get the numbers for close of day for today, tomorrow morning we will see if the start of day number for tomorrow corresponds with the close of day for today. And that's how you can check whether any inputs are being made on the blind side of people. In the absence of that, definitely there will be speculations, and people would, all kinds of videos are circulation. It is because the EC, some of the staff themselves, are not giving the slips to our polling agents at the various polling stations. From our monitoring, we observed that at some polling stations in the Ashanti region, for instance, even security agents were assisting in the completion of registration forms to make the process faster. However, in Adaklu, in the Volta region, for instance, where 2 registration assistants were assisting in the completion of the registration forms, MPP executives reported the incident to the Volta regional minister. I know where the Volta regional minister became an official of the EC, and I'll come to that. He was the same person who falsely arrested people and accused them of being Togolese, and we're going to show you pictures and videos of that.